The Book of Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus, Chapter 23. O Yahuwah, Father and Adon of all my life, do not leave me to their counsels, and do not let me fall by them. Who shall appoint whips over my thoughts, and the discipline of wisdom over my heart? That they do not spare me for my ignorances, and it does not pass by my sins. Lest my ignorances increase, and my sins multiply to my destruction. And I fall before my adversaries, and my enemy rejoice over me, whose expectancy is far from your kindness. O Yahuwah, Father and Elohim of my life, do not give me a proud look, but always turn your servants away from a haughty mind. Turn me away from worthless expectation and lust, and you hold up he who desires to always serve you. Do not let the gluttony of the stomach nor lust of the flesh take hold of me, and do not give me, your servant, over to a hardened heart. Hear, O you children, the instruction of the mouth. He who guards it shall never be overtaken with his lips. The sinner shall be left in his foolishness. Both the speaker of evil and the proud shall fall by it. Do not accustom your mouth to swearing, nor use the name of the Kadosh One. For as a servant that is continually beaten shall not be without a bruise, so he who swears naming Elohim continually shall not be guiltless. A man that swears much is filled with wickedness, and the plague shall never depart from his house. If he transgresses, his sin shall be upon him, and if he does not acknowledge his sin, he commits a double offense. And if he swears in vain, he shall not be innocent, but his house shall be filled with calamities. There is a word that is clothed with death. Elohim grant that it not be found in the inheritance of Jacob. For all such matters shall be far from the reverent, and they shall not wallow in their sins. Do not use your mouth to swear rashly, for in these words there is sin. Remember your father and your mother when you sit among great men. Do not be forgetful before them, and so, by your habit, become a fool in which that you had not been born, and curse the day of your birth. The man who is accustomed to insulting words shall never be instructed all the days of his life. 2 kinds of men multiply sin, and the third shall bring wrath. A heated spirit as a burning fire shall never be quenched till it is consumed. One who whores in the body of his flesh shall never cease till he has kindled a fire. All bread is sweet to those who whore. He does not cease till he dies. An adulterer says thus in his heart, Who sees me? I am surrounded with darkness. The walls cover me, and no one sees me. What do I need to fear? The Most High shall not remember my sins. Such a man only fears the eyes of men, and does not know that the eyes of Yahuwah are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, watching all the ways of men, and observing the most secret places. He knew all when they were created, so after they were accomplished he looked upon them all. This man shall be punished in the streets of the city, and he shall be taken where he does not suspect. So it should also be for the wife that leaves her husband, and brings forth an heir by another. For firstly, she has disobeyed the law of the Most High, and secondly, she has trespassed against her own husband, and thirdly, she has committed whoring by adultery, and brought forth children by another man. She shall be brought out into the assembly, and inquiry shall be made of her children. Her children shall not take root, and her branches shall not bring forth fruit. She shall leave a cursed remembrance, and her reproach shall not be blotted out. And those who remain shall know that there is none better than the reverence of Yahuwah, and that there is naught sweeter than to guard the commands of Yahuwah. It is great wisdom to follow Yahuwah, and to be accepted by him is long life. Chapter 24. Wisdom shall praise herself, and be esteemed in the midst of her people. In the assembly of the Most High she opens her mouth, and overcomes before his power. I came out of the mouth of the Most High, and covered the earth as a cloud. I dwelt in high places, and my throne is in a cloudy pillar. I alone surrounded the circuit of the Shemaim, and walked in the bottom of the deep. in the ways of the sea and in all the earth and in every people and nation. I obtained a possession. With all these I sought rest, and in whose inheritance shall I remain? So the Creator of all gave me a command, and he who made me gave rest for my tent, and said, Let your dwelling be in Jacob, and your inheritance in Yisrael. He created me from the beginning before the world, and I shall never fail. In the Kodesh Mishkan I served before him, and so I was established in Zion. Likewise in the beloved city he gave me rest, and in Jerusalem was my strength. And I took root in an esteemed people, even in the portion of the inheritance of Yahuwah. And I was exalted like a cedar in Lebanon, and as a cypress upon the mountains of Hermon. I was exalted like a palm tree in En-Gedi, and as a rose bush in Jericho, as a fair olive tree in a pleasant field, and grew as a fig tree by the water. I gave a sweet smell like cinnamon and rosewood, and I yielded a pleasant fragrance like the best myrrh, and galbanum, and shoham, and fragrant gum, and as the fragrance of frankincense in the Mishkan. As a cypress I stretched out my branches, and my branches are the branches of esteem and favor. As the vine I brought forth a pleasant fragrance, and my flowers are the fruit of esteem and wealth. I am the mother of pleasant love, and reverence, and knowledge, and Kodesh expectancy. I therefore, being of old, am giving to all my children who are named by him. Come to me, all you who desire me, and fill yourselves with my fruit. For my remembrance is sweeter than honey, and my inheritance than the honeycomb. Those who eat of me shall hunger for more, and those who drink me shall thirst for more. He who obeys me shall never be ashamed, and those who work beside me shall not do wrong. All these are the book of the covenant of the Most High Elohim, even the law which Moshe commanded for an inheritance to the congregations of Jacob. Do not lose heart, but be strong in Yahuwah, that he may confirm you. Cling to him, for Yahuwah Almighty is Elohim alone, and beside him there is no other Savior. He fills all with his wisdom, as Pishon and as Hiddekel in the time of first fruits. He makes understanding to abound like Perith, and as the Yarden in the time of the harvest. He makes the instruction of knowledge appear as the light, and as Gihon in the time of grape harvest. The first man did not know her fully, nor shall the last find her out. For her thoughts are more than the sea, and her counsels deeper than the great deep. I also came as a wadi from a river, and as a channel into a garden. I said, I shall water my best garden, and shall water my garden bed very much. And see, my wadi became a river, and my river became a sea. I shall yet make instruction to shine as the morning, and shall send forth her light far away. I shall yet pour out instruction as Nabuah, and leave it to all ages forever. See that I have not labored for myself only, but for all those who seek wisdom. Chapter 25. In 3 matters I was adorned, and stood in loveliness both before Elohim and man: the oneness of brothers, the love of neighbors, a man and a wife that agree together. 3 sorts of men my being hates, and I greatly loathe of their life: a poor man who is proud, a wealthy man who is a liar, and an old adulterer who is foolish. If you have gathered not in your youth, how shall you find any matter in your old age? Oh, how lovely is judgment for gray hairs, and for the aged to know counsel! Oh, how lovely is the wisdom of old men, and understanding and counsel in men of esteem! Much experience is the crown of old men, and the reverence of Elohim is their esteem. There are 9 which I have judged in my heart to be Baruch, and the 10th I shall relate with my tongue. A man that has joy from his children, and he who lives to see the fall of his enemy. Good is he who dwells with a wife of understanding, and that has not slipped with his tongue, and that has not served a man more unworthy than himself. Good is he who has found insight, and he who speaks in the ears of those who listen. Oh, how great is he who finds wisdom! Yet there is none above he who reveres Yahuwah, but the love of Yahuwah passes all understanding. He who possesses it, to what shall he be likened? The reverence of Yahuwah is the beginning of his love, and belief is the beginning of clinging to him. Any wound but a wound of the heart, and any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman, and any affliction but the affliction from those who hate me, and any revenge but the revenge of enemies. There is no venom above the venom of a serpent, and there is no wrath above the wrath of an enemy. I would rather dwell with a lion and a dragon than to dwell in a house with a wicked woman. The wickedness of a woman changes her appearance and darkens her face like sackcloth. Her husband shall sit among his neighbors, and listening he shall sigh bitterly. All wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Let the portion of a sinner fall upon her, as the climbing of a sandy way is to the feet of the aged. So is a wife full of words to a quiet man. Do not stumble at the loveliness of a woman, and do not desire her for pleasure. A woman supporting her husband is full of wrath, hardness, and much reproach. A wicked woman causes courage to cease, causes a heavy face and a wounded heart. A woman that does not comfort her husband in distress causes weak hands and feeble knees. For the woman came the beginning of sin, and because of her we all die. Give water no outlet, nor a wicked woman freedom to roam. If she does not do as you would have her, cut her off from yourself, and give her a certificate of divorce, and let her go. Chapter 26. Baruch is the man that has a capable wife, for the number of his days shall be double. A capable woman gladdens her husband, and he shall fill the years of his life in shalom. A good wife is a good portion, which shall be given in the portion of those who revere Yahuwah. Whether a man is wealthy or poor, if he has a good heart toward Yahuwah, he shall rejoice at all times with a cheerful face. There are 3 matters that my heart fears, and of the 4th I was very afraid: the slander of a city, the gathering together of an unruly crowd, and a false accusation. All these are worse than death. But a woman that is jealous over another woman is grieving to the heart and sorrow, and a lashing tongue which makes known to all. An evil wife is a yoke shaken to and fro. He who has hold of her is as though he held a scorpion. A drunken and wandering woman causes great wrath, and she does not cover her own shame. The whoring of a woman is known by her haughty look and eyelids. If your daughter is wayward, keep her straight, lest she abuse herself through too much freedom. Watch over one with a hard eye, and do not marvel if she trespasses against you. She shall open her mouth as a thirsty traveler who has found a fountain, and drink of every water near her. By every hedge she shall sit down, and open her quiver for every arrow. The favor of a wife delights her husband, and her discretion shall fatten his bones. A silent and loving woman is a gift of Yahuwah, and there is not worth as much as a mind well instructed. A humble and trustworthy woman is a double favor, and her sober mind cannot be valued. As the sun when it rises high in the Shemayim, so is the loveliness of a good wife in the ordering of her house. As a shining light upon the Kodesh candlestick, so is the loveliness of the face in ripe age. As the golden stands upon the sockets of silver, so are the lovely feet with a constant heart. My son, guard the flower of your youth well, and do not give your strength to foreigners. When you have acquired a fruitful possession through all the field, sow it with your own seed, trusting in the goodness of your stock. So your relatives which you leave are made great, having the confidence of their good genealogy. A whore shall be counted as spittle, but a married woman is a tower against death to her husband. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a reverent woman is given to he who reveres Yahuwah. A dishonest woman is despised and shamed, but an honest woman shall revere her husband. A headstrong woman shall be counted as a dog, but she that is humble reveres Yahuwah. A woman that esteems her husband shall be judged wise among all, but she that shames him in her pride shall be counted wicked among all. A loud-mouthed woman and a nagger shall be sought out to drive away the enemies. There are two matters that grieve my heart, and the third makes me wroth. A man of battle that suffers poverty, and a man of understanding that are not respected, and one that turns from righteousness to sin. Yahuwah prepares such a one for the sword. A merchant hardly guards himself from doing wrong, and a trader is not free from sin. Chapter 27. Many have sinned for a smaller matter, and he who seeks abundance turns his eyes away. As a nail holds fast between the join of stones, so sin holds close between buying and selling. Unless a man behaves diligently in the reverence of Yahuwah, his house shall soon be overthrown. As when one sifts with a sieve, the refuse remains, so the filth of a man is in his words. The furnace tries the potter's vessels, so the trial of man is in his reasoning. The fruit declares if the tree has been cultivated, so is the speaking of pride in the heart of man. Praise no man before you hear him speak, for this is the trial of men. If you follow righteousness, you shall obtain it, and put it on as a long robe of esteem. The birds shall gather with their kind, so shall truth return to those who practice it. As the lion lies in wait for prey, so does sin for those who work wickedness. The words of a reverent man are always with wisdom, but a fool changes as the moon. Watch the time if you are among the foolish, but be continually among men of understanding. The words of fools are troublesome, and their entertainment is the indecency of sin. The words of he who swears much makes the hair stand upright, and their uproar makes one stop his ears. The strife of the proud is bloodshed, and their revilings are grievous to the ear. Whoever uncovers secrets loses his trust, and shall never find a friend of his being. Love your friend and be trustworthy to him, and if you betray his secrets, never again follow after him. For as a man has destroyed his enemy, so you have lost the love of your neighbor. As one that releases a bird out of his hand, so you have let your neighbor go, and shall not have him again. Do not follow after him, for he is too far off. He is like a gazelle escaped out of the snare. As for a wound, it may be bound up, and after reviling there may be shalom. But he who betrays secrets is without expectancy. He who winks with the eyes works evil, and he who knows him departs from him. When you are present, he shall speak sweetly, and shall admire your words, but in the end he shall twist his mouth and slander your sayings. I have hated many matters, but not like him, for Yahuwah shall hate him. Whoever throws a stone high throws it on his own head, and a blow in deceit makes wounds. Whoever digs a pit shall fall into it, and he who lays a trap shall be caught in it. He who does evil, it shall fall upon him, and he shall not know from where it comes. Mockery and reproach are from the proud, but vengeance as a lion lies in wait for them. Those who rejoice at the fall of the righteous shall be taken in the snare, and anguish shall consume them before they die. Evil and wrath, even these are abominations, and the sinful man has them both. Chapter 28. He who is vengeful shall find vengeance from Yahuwah, and he shall surely keep account of his sins. Forgive your neighbor the harm that he has done to you, so your sins shall also be forgiven when you pray. One man bears hatred against another, and should he seek forgiveness from Yahuwah? He shows no kindness to a man who is like himself, and does he ask forgiveness of his own sins? If he who is but flesh maintains hatred, who shall pray forgiveness for his sins? Remember your end, and let enmity cease, corruption and death, and remain in the commands. Remember the commands, and bear no evil against your neighbor. The covenant of the Most High, and overlook faults. Abstain from strife, and you shall diminish your sins. For a man of range kindles strife. A sinful man disrupts friendships, and creates quarrels among those who are at shalom. As the structure of the fire, so it burns, and as a man's strength is, so is his wrath. And according to his wealth his wrath rises, and the stronger they are who contend, the more they shall be inflamed. A hasty quarrel kindles a fire, and hasty fighting sheds blood. If you blow the spark, it shall burn. If you spit upon it, it shall be quenched, and both of these come out of your mouth. Curse the gossiper and double-tongued, for such have destroyed many who were at Shalom. A backbiting tongue has troubled many, and driven them from nation to nation. It has pulled down strong cities, and overthrown the houses of great men. A backbiting tongue has thrown out virtuous women, and deprived them of their labors. Whoever listens to it shall never find rest, and never dwell quietly. The stroke of the whip makes marks in the flesh, but the stroke of the tongue breaks the bones. Many have fallen by the edge of the sword, but not as many who have fallen by the tongue. It is good for he who is protected from its venom, who has not drawn its yoke, nor been bound in its bands. For its yoke is a yoke of iron, and its bands are bands of bronze. The death from it is an evil death, the grave is better than it. It shall not rule over those who revere Elohim, nor shall they be burned with its flames. Those who forsake Yahuwah shall fall into it, and it shall burn in them, and not be quenched. It shall be sent upon them as a lion, and devour them as a leopard. As you hedge your possessions with thorns around, you bind up your silver and gold. Weigh your words in a balance, and make a door and bar for your mouth. Beware you do not slip by it, lest you fall before he who lies in wait. Chapter 29. He who is kind shall lend to his neighbor, and he who strengthens his hand guards the commands. Lend to your neighbor in his time of need, and repay your neighbor again in due season. Guard your word, and deal trustworthily with him, and you shall always find that which is necessary for you. Many reckon what was loaned to them to be found, and put to trouble those who help them. Till he has received, he shall kiss a man's hand, and for his neighbor's silver he shall speak softly. But when he should repay, he shall prolong the time, and return words of grief, and complain of the time. If he overcomes, he shall hardly give the half, and he shall count it as though he had found it. If not, he has deprived him of his silver, and he has gained an enemy without cause. He pays him with cursings and slander, and instead of esteem he shall pay him shame. Many have therefore refused to lend for other men's evil deeds, fearing to be cheated. Yet have patience with a man in poverty, and do not delay to show him kindness. Help the poor for the sake of the command, and do not turn him away because of his poverty. Lose your silver for your brother and your friend, and do not let it rust under a stone to be lost. Lay up your treasure according to the commands of the Most High, and it shall bring you more profit than gold. Store up kind deeds in your storehouses, and it shall deliver you from all affliction. It shall fight for you against your enemies, better than a mighty shield and strong spear. An honest man stands guarantor for his neighbor, but he who is impudent shall forsake him. Do not forget the friendship of your guarantor, for he has given his life for you. A sinner shall overthrow the good manner of his guarantor, and he who is thankless shall forsake he who delivered him. Guarantee has undone many of good estate, and shaken them as a wave of the sea. It has driven mighty men from their houses, so that they wandered among foreign nations. A wicked man transgressing the commands of Yahuwah shall fall in guarantee, and he who undertakes and follows others men's business for gain shall fall into lawsuits. Assist your neighbor according to your ability, and beware that you do not fall into the same. The necessities for life are water and bread and garments and a house for privacy. Better is the life of a poor man in a lowly cottage than food of delicacies in another man's house. Whether little or much, be content, that you do not hear the reproach of your house, for it is a miserable life to go from house to house. For where you are a stranger, you dare not open your mouth. You shall entertain and feast and have no thanks, and you shall hear bitter words. Come, you stranger, and furnish a table, and feed me of what you have ready. Give place, you stranger, to an esteemed man. My brother seeks lodging, and I have need of my house. These matters are grievous to a man of understanding, the contempt of a household, and reproach of the lender.